Hello and a very warm welcome. You're watching News 9. This is your weekly dose of everything that's happening in the world of artificial intelligence. That's right, you're watching AI Report with me, Kartik, Malhotra. Well, the big question on everybody's mind really has been on how much autonomy should artificial intelligence have, especially when it comes to critical war decisions. That's a big story that we will bring a perspective on the show today. As always, first up, let's bring you an update on everything that happened in the world of artificial intelligence in the week gone by. Take a look at these headlines.
From Oracle's bumper revenue predictions to Anthropic suing the US government, this is AI Weekly. Oracle has predicted that the AI data center boom will power revenue above Wall Street estimates well into 2027. Its shares shot up over 8% on that news. The outlook helps to allay investor concerns that Oracle's costly multi-billion-dollar push into AI computing will not generate profits quickly enough. Oracle has made a dramatic turn toward building data centers for partners such as OpenAI and Meta. Amazon is looking to boost AI investment with a $37 billion bond sale. That was according to a term sheet seen by Reuters. It's the latest tech giant to sell huge amounts of debt as so-called hyperscalers prepare to invest hundreds of billions of dollars in AI infrastructure. Facebook parent Meta Platforms said it acquired Maltbook, a social networking platform built for AI agents. Maltbook is a Reddit-like site where bots appear to swap code and gossip about their human owners. It was started as a niche experiment in late January and has since become the center of a growing debate on how close computers are to possessing human-like intelligence. ChatGPT and 2 other artificial intelligence chatbots have been approved for official use in the US Senate. That was according to a report by the New York Times. It added that aides could use Google's Gemini Chat, OpenAI's ChatGPT, and Microsoft Copilot, all of which are already integrated into Senate platforms. And Anthropic is suing the US government. The AI firm is trying to block the Pentagon from placing it on a national security blacklist. The lawsuit escalates Anthropic's high-stakes battle with the Defense Department over the uses and limits of AI in military technology. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth designated Anthropic a national security supply chain risk last week. The startup had refused to remove guardrails against using its AI for autonomous weapons or domestic surveillance.
And of course, that is the big story that we left you with, which we will continue on the other side of the break. Anthropic has been deemed a supply chain risk by the US, but the big question really is how much of artificial intelligence can be trusted and should be trusted, especially with critical war decisions. We'll bring you that on the other side of the break. Keep watching the AI Report as we will be back with 2 expert opinions coming in on the show on that big development on Anthropic. You're watching the AI Report. You're watching the AI Report right here on News 9. Anthropic versus Pentagon. That's a big story that has been brewing from a day before the war in Iran started. And there are critical questions on how much of artificial intelligence should be trusted with the moral, the ethical, and the decision-making in critical war scenario when it comes to artificial intelligence. Well, let's bring you first the chain of events. Remember, on Saturday, the 28th of February, Anthropic's Claude surged to the #1 spot on Apple's charts as the top free apps in the United States, dethroning ChatGPT. Now, entire US downloads of Claude jumped by as much as 51%. Remember, this was also the day that US and Israeli strikes on Iran began. Now, this also right after the platform Anthropic being blacklisted by Pentagon over what it called ethical concerns. Now, as a company feud with the Pentagon, business continued to boom. Now, a day earlier, on the 27th of February, Pentagon knocked on the doors of OpenAI to supply artificial intelligence expertise to its classified military networks, read intelligence. Now, on the 28th of Feb, uninstalls of ChatGPT's mobile app jumped as much as almost 300% day over day as consumers responded to the news of OpenAI's deal with the Department of Defense, which has been rebranded under the Trump administration as the Department of War. The crux of all of this continuing to be the use of artificial intelligence, no matter which platform provides that intelligence, but the use of artificial intelligence when it comes to critical decision making during war. Now, on Thursday, the 5th of March, the US military formally designated Anthropic as a supply chain risk. Now, on the same day, OpenAI Sam Altman stated that his company's intention was to de-escalate the situation. While saying so, Altman also took very subtle swipes at rival Anthropic, saying that he thinks it's bad for society if companies start abandoning their commitment to the democratic process because, and some people don't like the person or people currently in charge. Now, cut to 4 days later, on the 9th of March, Anthropic formally filed a lawsuit against the Trump administration and the Pentagon. The legal action challenges the Department of War's designation of Anthropic as a national security supply chain risk. What this really means is that the Pentagon said that Anthropic cannot work directly or indirectly with the Pentagon, which means that even indirectly working with other vendors who supply critical supply chain requirements, including goods and services to the Pentagon, Anthropic will not be allowed to work with them. And what are those guardrails for which Anthropic was designated as a supply chain risk? Well, Anthropic was very clear that its artificial intelligence technology cannot be used for mass surveillance and for autonomous weapons. But Pentagon's argument and position on the matter is very different, saying that whatever the Department of Defense wants to use any technology for, it should be allowed to use it. Well, a lot of ethical concerns there, a lot of moral concerns there, and of course this sort of deadlock position also coming as an active conflict in West Asia continues. First up, let's listen in to Brad Cooper, the head of the U.S. Central Command, and what he had to say about the use of artificial intelligence.
We're on a path to eliminating Iran's ability to threaten Americans and our friends, and we are achieving this through a combination of lethality, precision, and rapid innovation. Let me highlight a few examples, at least the ones that aren't classified, of how we are achieving lethal effects in entirely new ways. First, our warfighters are leveraging a variety of advanced AI tools. These systems help us sift through vast amounts of data in seconds, so our leaders can cut through the noise and make smarter decisions faster than the enemy can react. Humans will always make final decisions on what to shoot and what not to shoot, and when to shoot. But advanced AI tools can turn processes that used to take hours and sometimes even days into seconds.
Well, by some estimates, the US-Israeli campaign on Iran has killed at least 1,300 people since the war began on the 28th of Feb. Now, let's put all this into perspective, especially artificial intelligence and, of course, the moral compass behind the software and the real critical wartime use. We have two very special guests joining us this morning. We've got Jaspreet Bindra, CEO of AI and Beyond and Tech Whisperer, and we've also got Lieutenant General V.K. Saxena, former Director General of the Army Air Defense in the Indian Army. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. First up to you, Mr. Bindra, I want to understand patriotism versus ethics. Now, some say that everything is fair in love and war. In war, nations do whatever it takes, be it artificial intelligence or any form, as long as the objective is to dismantle enemy infrastructure and assets. So who really seems to be wrong here, Anthropic or Pentagon?
Thank you, Kartik. And I think General Saxena might be better positioned to answer the everything is fair in love and war question. But if we go to what is happening between Anthropic and the Department of, well, the rebranded Department of War. Well, one thing is that, look, new weapons do come into military since times immemorial. It started with, an army bringing in elephants and someone else didn't have a counter to that. And then, cannons happening or gunpowder and other such weapons. And I think the biggest one which has come in recent times now seems to be AI or artificial intelligence. I think the big difference, perhaps, between the weapons of these big weapons which came throughout history and now is the question of agency. So far, most of the weapons, however powerful, however lethal or deadly, were controlled by human beings. With AI-related lethal autonomous weapons, etc., the worry is that there's a possibility that some of these might not be controlled by human beings, and therefore agency, full agency, could be potentially given to AI and AI models to seek and destroy, seek, target, destroy, and therefore, own, in a sense, the entire kill chain. I think that is the nub of the issue, and that's where the disagreement between Anthropic and the Department of War is as to who keeps control. And what Anthropic has been trying to do is to mitigate this agency issue by drawing certain red lines, which the Department of War has not really accepted, saying that they will draw those red lines. And so I think the answer is nuanced. It's not that A is right or B is right. I think at a higher level, we need to abstract above this, and as humanity decide, like we did with chemical or biological weapons, as to where these red lines get drawn.
All right. So, of course, those red lines have to be clearly drawn and clearly defined. So, let's take this to General V.K. Saxena. General Saxena, I really want to, get your perspective on the use of artificial intelligence in war. As long as the software is used or the technology is used to assess intelligence input, which is something that I think Anthropic was originally commissioned to do, it was all right. As long as it was used to just crunch a lot of information and give something actionable to the generals who are making the decision, it was fine. But the moment the question of weapons being launched autonomously using artificial intelligence propped up, that is where Anthropic wanted to get out of the deal with Pentagon and wanted to get its product out of that particular use case. Now, at the end of the day, whether it's a machine which is pushing the launch button or a human being who's listening to a machine-generated report and acting on it, does it really make a difference?
You asked a very pertinent question, and let me just give you the military dimension of the same thing. What is at the bottom of everything? The bottom of this debate is the prohibition of such weapons which fire autonomously without human intervention, without human in the loop. Now, this is nothing which has emerged yesterday or anything like that. No, right in the beginning from 2000 onwards, when the concept of manned and unmanned teaming erupted, the CATS team erupted. So manned aircraft used to go along with the unmanned aircrafts, and the eyes and ears of the combat pilot used to be the unmanned. But what was the bottom line? The strike decision. The strike decision always remained with the human in the loop. Why this is such a big query? It is such a big issue because machines can kill indiscriminately. Machines do not distinguish between a combatant and a civilian. Machines, in smallest error, when run over millions of data sets and people, can prove to be catastrophic in its dimension. You can take out one single person based on your facial recognition, his locational details, his social media accounts, his behavioral patterns. But when you apply these data sets over large population and trying to identify targets which need to be destroyed, and the machine is deciding that,
Yeah.
then it becomes a catastrophic in its own nature of destruction. So what the UN
I
Secretary
hear you,
General has
General
just crossed.
Saxena. But my limited point really being that as long as human beings are acting with the same intelligence provided to them through a machine-learned sort of, algorithmic approach, whether the human presses the button or the machine automatically with the same information launches the weapon, is there too much of a difference between the two? Because you're talking about unmanned aerial vehicles as well. In the case of UAVs as well, the coordinates are fed in. Now, those coordinates are again fed in, with the intelligence which is available. Now, if AI is being used to condense that information and directly feed those coordinates and for the machine to go and launch a strike versus just those coordinates and the kill button being pressed by a human being, is there a fundamental difference between the two?
Yes, yes. You are trying to bring the decision close to pressing the button. I am trying to take you back to the process of identifying the target, processing huge data sets, and trying to say that this is the target to be destroyed. If that is being done by a machine, and also the decision to restrike is being taken by the machine, then the indiscriminate killing may take place. It is not pressing the button. The pressing the button is the last of the action. It
Okay.
is followed by a chain which is preceding that, and the chain which precedes that. And if it is only controlled by the machine and the data sets, if you hear the CEO of Anthropic, he says that while our model can process a huge amount of data, there are probabilities of its making a mistake. Now, if this small error or a mistake in judgment of target, whether identification, location, or its identity is done, and the data set is run over a large number, it is irrespective of the fact who's pressing the button, who is telling to press the button against the target which is identified by a machine. Now, even in the manned and unmanned teaming, the decision to restrike, if the pilot has struck a particular missile, is sent a missile or fired a missile on a target, and the target is destroyed or not destroyed, the decision to restrike is again taken with a human in the loop. Now, if I take your mind back to the AI Impact Summit which just now happened, what is India saying? India is saying that we are going to build AI in our defense system with three things in mind: ethical, justifiable, and aligned to our values. We do
Right.
not want the AI, we do not want machines to overtake the humans in killing like a Terminator style. Yesterday, you heard the Chinese comment by the
Absolutely.
Chinese that if you do this, it will be a Terminator style of of killing of humans without concern. What does the UN Secretary General has said? He has said, I want a legally binding treaty by 2026 to do what? To only do two things: prohibit autonomous weapons which fire without human in the loop,
Right.
without human intervention, without human intersight, whether it is human in the loop or human on the loop. What happens? We are only trying to prevent. And why all these CEOs are making a noise about their system is because in their hearts of heart they know that their systems are little short of perfection. If you give the kill decision and a restrike decision to a machine, then you are losing the autonomy of human judgment. You know, when we used to talk about the man and man, we used to say that the dull, dirty, and dangerous machines, like the autonomous machines,
Yeah.
are to be combined with the human intellect,
Right.
with the combat potential of a pilot, his decision making capability, and his hunch as a pilot to take decision. If you
Right.
take that human consent out, then you start killing indiscriminately. It is not only against international humanitarian law, it is against the very ethics of humanity when you are allowing machines to kill humans without any discretion.
Absolutely.
Like, for example, if you say, who's causing pollution? You tell a machine, who's causing pollution? Humans cause pollution. The decision taken, kill all humans. Look at the absurdity. Look at the absurdity. Nobody is talking about that data sets are being processed fast or everything. That's great. AI
Right.
is great. AI is giving precision targets, but without human in the loop. That is what the point of Claude is. That is the point what Dario Amodi is
Amore.
making.
Right.
That's it. That's it.
All right.
Nothing else.
All right, I understand. I hear what you're saying, and let me bring this back to Jaspreet Bindra, because Jaspreet, what we are hearing the general saying is that the final decision before the kill button is pressed has to rest with a human being, and the human being has to be in the loop, if not potentially in the lead. But you know, the sort of counter view which could emerge also is that at the end of the day, the intelligence, the resources which are being crunched by the machine on which certain action points are being suggested, if not performed, are also coming through a vast network of human beings which are putting all that research, putting all that intelligence paperwork together. At the end of the day, if the machine is not to be relied on to take the decision to kill, should the machine be relied on to also accurately compile all the information available? And if not, if the machine is kept out of the loop, then are we going to get the kind of exact war results like potentially, the world and especially the generals would like to see across the world?
Let me give you two examples here, Kartik. the exfiltration of the Venezuelan president happened with a lot of involvement from Claude,
Yeah.
specifically Claude, and
Yeah.
built into Palantir through their Maven system. And that operation, in many ways, there were other factors also worked with that precision because of AI. Number one. Second story. If you think of and I'm supporting the general here, if you think of the bombing, horrific bombing of that school in Iran with 150 plus little girls in it, if you kind of dissect that, and I've gone through that story, basically the last missile which actually hit it, there were 4 missiles, and the 4th missile which hit it was really an AI-assisted decision. And the important part is that because of certain policy reasons that the Department of War had taken, a bunch of humans who were actually going to do a second-level check on whether this is the right place to attack or not did not happen. And the missile went there, and even now the Americans seem to be regretting that very horrific decision. So if I take these two things and coming to your question, look, what can AI do in war? At the highest level, and very quickly, 5 things. It can be an analyst. So all the different signals coming in, this fire hose of information coming in, AI can help you analyze them much, much, much faster in minutes or hours rather than days. Number one. Number two, it can be the spotter. So it can lead to tell you, like in the Venezuela case, with higher degree of precision, where the targets are. After that, a human needs to verify that, which sometimes does not happen. The third thing, it can be a war gamer. As the general would testify, there are a lot of scenario planning which happens before any strike, any war, etc. And red versus blue kind of war gaming, a lot of simulations, Monte Carlo simulations, bunch of things can actually be accelerated and made better by AI. Fourth, it can be a navigator. It's an amazing optimizer. So logistics, navigation, etc. can, for a strike can happen much better. But fifth, and the most important, is that it can be, to use a word, be a co-pilot. So again, fire hose of information coming, different signals, how a human plus AI can hopefully take better decisions, more precise decisions than what was happening otherwise in a human without AI. And so there are a bunch of scenarios. But the final thing that I would say is that, look, it's not it's not as simple as, one AI just being empowered or not being empowered and doing everything from the beginning to the end, including pressing the button.
Right.
AI, even Claude, actually is a part, in a sense, a cognitive layer, which is there in a much more complex decision support system like, say, Palantir's Maven, which is designed by design to be a human plus AI system. And so I think if you kind of look at all of these ways that AI can help, it goes much beyond just quote unquote pressing the button. And these ways to help, which is not a lethal autonomous weapon way, is there perhaps the right ways for AI to help, rather than giving all agency to AI, designing laws, lethal autonomous weapons, and outsourcing the war to quote unquote Terminator machines.
All right, of course. So outsourcing the war, that is something that I take back, with me as part of this conversation. I want to give the last word to General Saxena, but before that, let's also take a quick listen into what Lieutenant General Vipul Singhal, AVSM SM, and the Deputy Chief of the Integrated Defence Staff, speaking at the Synergia Conclave yesterday, mentioned about how the Indian Armed Forces are viewing this sort of complex world of artificial intelligence and navigating through it. Let's hear him out, and then I'll come back to Lieutenant Saxena.
Judgment. The black box, so to speak, has to become a glass box, which is not happening today. Even when I am operating an AI system, though I understand how to operate it, but I do not know as to what is the manipulation of data happening to give me that decision. What is the brain of that computer doing? And I think most importantly, where we have control and where we are also focusing is that our commanders, who are going to, earlier were only dealing with troops and basically giving decisions on that basis, are today dealing with algorithms and also systems, and they need to understand that. And therefore they have the ability to question machine outputs, which, like I said, means comes with knowledge.
All right, and last word to you, Lieutenant General Saxena, as we were discussing. Finally, you're saying human in the loop. Jaspreet Bindra is saying AI at best can be a co-pilot. At the end of the day, what are the lessons from what we've seen in the saga of Anthropic versus Pentagon? And what are the lessons that we should draw for India and for the use of artificial intelligence in the Indian Armed Forces?
I think the Deputy Chief put the point very straight that AI cannot be wished away today. AI is not only a force multiplier, it is something which will make us fight the future wars and win it for on our own terms. But at the same time, we have to ensure that guardrails are built adequately in the use of AI to deter what? To deter indiscriminate killing without distinction, without proportionality, and without precaution. That is the end game which the Deputy Chief is bringing. And also, if you remember, all the efforts which India is making, the formation of the Defense AI Council, the putting in together of Project ACOM, which provides AI as a service, and also bringing responsibility in the use of AI by building guardrails. The whole world is trying to put its act together, and we are a part of it. It is a matter still a work in progress, but we have to ensure two things: use AI most optimally, use AI to win wars, but at the same time keep in mind the ethical, the precise, proportionate, and justifiable use of AI, which can only be ensured by putting human in the loop and human on the loop.
All
That
right.
is what is my view.
So keep the human in the loop, keep the human on the loop, and of course the ethical guardrails need to be absolutely strongly erected. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much. That's all we have time for, but indeed a pleasure having you with us, General Saxena and Jaspreet Bindra. Thank you so much for your time. Welcome back. You're watching the AI report right here on News9. Arvind Srinivasan-led Perplexity has launched a new cloud-based system called Personal Computer. Now, this product is designed to work continuously and perform tasks on behalf of users. It connects a dedicated device with Perplexity'S AI platform, enabling it to work across files locally stored on the computer, apps, as well as online tools around the clock, 24/7. Perplexity'S personal computer is an always-on, even when your physical computer is switched off. How does it work? Well, we've got Amit, Ranjan, Kumar joining us on the show to tell us all about this latest innovation called Perplexity Personal Computer by Arvind Srinivasan's company. What exactly is this personal computer and how does it work, Amit, even if the computer is switched off?
Yeah, so it is just another, we've spoken about agentic AI tools that work through your files. They are dedicated to your computer, attached to your computer, your files, and they work round the clock. So they are doing tasks in the background that you need probably the next day morning. This is just another tool, but it is more business-like. It is not interacting with other agents on the fly unless you have told it to do so.
All right, but then again, this particular, the difference as I see it between, let's say, the personal computer and the previous version computer is that this particular agent has got access to your personal files and the personal files which are stored on your device. Now, does it mean if I want to use it on another device that I own, I'm not able to make full use of the agent?
Kartik, this is one thing that we have been discussing on this show and even before, about one phrase that we keep coming to, the kill switch. The thing about Perplexity AI is that you can monitor it remotely from another device.
Okay.
It gives you a daily audit of what it has done.
All right.
And you can program sensitive data for which it has to take permission before making a decision. And it has a kill switch.
All right, it has a kill switch. I'm sure, that is something that a lot of people would be happy about, but there would be many who would say that, hey, do we really need it? Because if AI is used in war, can AI not be used on making decisions on my behalf? But the larger question really being, is the personal computer out in the market, and if it is, how much does it cost?
It's not out. It is basically being offered to a select clients for which also there is a waiting period. So there is a wait list for the clients that it is offering to, and it is clubbing this new platform with other applications for enterprises, for HubSpot, for Salesforce and all that. So it is in development stages, but it is being launched for a select users. Probably after they get the feedback from that, they will develop it further.
All right, so still some time to go before you and I can use a personal computer, launching soon by Perplexity. But for today, thank you so much, Amit, for all the input on this new developing story. And with that, we come to an end of this edition of the AI Report. Thank you so much for watching. News continues right here on News 9.